Hi, this is chapter three's lecture. I hope you guys read page 57 um, and learn about what happened in Haiti. And let's start in chapter 3. So there's two parts to an ecosystem. Okay, let's start again. There's two parts to an ecosystem. There's the biotic part, which is all the plants and animals, and then there's the abiotic, a meaning not living part, which is all the energy that goes into the system, and the mineral components like soil and water and any nutrients, any chemical nutrients. So that's the abiotic part. Um, the abiotic components, especially the temperature and the climate, the amount of moisture in the system really affects what things can live there, the plants and animals that can live there. So really wet areas are going to have different types of plants and animals. Really dry areas are going to have different plants and animals. So the big thing that determines an ecosystem is the temperature and the amount of moisture there. In lesser amounts, it's nutrients and the type of soil that the ecosystem has. But in general, the main thing you need to remember is the main thing that's going to affect the plants and animals is the temperature and the rainfall. Ecosystems can have boundaries. They could be distinct boundaries or really vague boundaries. So, like, for example, a cave would have very distinct boundary. It would have all the inside part of the cave, and then the mouth of the cave would be the boundary. But in general, most ecosystems have very vague interrelated boundaries to other ecosystems. So it's kind of hard to tell where the edge is of an ecosystem. It's helpful sometimes to distinguish between ecosystems, but they do interact with each other. Energy, animals, um, chemicals go in between the two ecosystems, so they are interrelated. So you remember that the only way we get energy on this planet is from the sun. The plants get their energy directly from the sun, and animals eat the plants and get their energy that way. Producers, the plants are called autotrophs. Auto means on their own. They're able to get energy on their own. They use the sun's energy to make glucose. So you'll have to know this formula. So solar energy is converted to chemical potential energy. Potential means that the energy within the bonds, when they break, give off energy. All living things on the planet get have processes called cellular respiration, and it's how plants grow, make new plants, how animals move, make new baby animals. So cellular respiration, both plants and animals use. Plants use it at nighttime when there's no sun around, and they do the opposite, which is photosynthesis during the day. All right, so make sure I got on the right page there. I was messing up there. Okay, you know that the atmosphere has oxygen in it. It's a byproduct of photosynthesis. Plants again make oxygen during the day, and they use oxygen at night. Luckily, the photosynthesis makes more oxygen than the plants use at nighttime. So we have a net addition of O2 in the atmosphere, and that's been going on for a long time. So we have a nice storehouse of oxygen in the atmosphere. Carbon's removed in the atmosphere when plants do photosynthesis and make the glucose and make all the parts to their bodies. So carbon is, the word is sequestered. That means it's not usable, but it's within the plant's bodies while they're alive. When they die, then that carbon is decomposed and again useful for animals and plants to use. So it's released during respiration in the evening when there's no sun, and also when the plant decomposes when it's dead. So there's different levels of things in the ecosystem. There's the autotrophs that we talked about. They are the ones that are making the energy. And then there's consumers, and consumers eat the producers. So remember, producers are the ones that produce the chemical energy, and those are plants. And then we have consumers. We have primary consumers, which are herbivores, such as a cow. Then we have secondary secondary consumers, which are carnivores, and they eat the herbivores. So if you had a cow, then a wolf would be a secondary consumer. And tertiary consumers you have sometimes that eat the secondary consumers. And we were just talking about levels, but in general, you don't have a nice straightforward 1, 2, 3. You have food webs where an animal could eat or be eaten by several different things. So that's a food web. And some organisms are omnivores. They eat meat and they eat plants. So they can make a food web really, really complicated. So they're going to probably ask you this question on the AP test. So we need to talk about gross primary productivity and net primary productivity. The GPP is all of the total energy that's captured by the producers. So it's all the sun energy that's captured by the producers. But remember, they have to use some energy to grow and make new leaves and plant parts. So the net primary productivity is the energy captured minus the energy respired by the producer. So this is all the sun energy that a plant will get. And then if you subtract the respiration that they do in the evening, then you'll get the net primary productivity. The example they use in the book is like if you have a job, you will get a salary. Say you get $10 an hour and you work 10 hours, then you get $100. But then you look at your paycheck and you only get $75 because they took off taxes and Social Security and stuff like that. So gross is how much energy or money you made total, but you had to give some money away for other things. So in the plant world, this is all the energy that plant gets, and then some of the energy is used up to make the plant's bodies, their cells, and their leaves, stems, and all those things like that. So the net primary productivity is how much energy they actually produce for the ecosystem. If you look at this chart, you're going to see that different ecosystems have different net primary productivity, and you see that like the marshes and swamps make a lot of energy, very productive. They make a lot of energy, and coral reefs in the ocean make a lot of energy. So these are like the most productive areas on the planet. And the most productive have an abundance of sunlight, water, and nutrients. So wetlands are called the nurseries, like making lots of babies and things like that. They have a lot of different kinds of species that live there, and they make it easy for a lot of things to reproduce. So this area and this area, and you've probably seen pictures of coral reefs where they have tons of different fish and coral living in side by side. So these are the most productive areas on the planet. We're going to talk about some other definitions. Biomass is the energy in the ecosystem. It's measured. The energy of the ecosystem is measured in something called biomass. The standing crop is the amount of biomass present in an ecosystem at a particular time. So if you're talking about a forest, it would be all of the standing trees. And it's the current amount of energy stored in an ecosystem. So all those trees have energy stored in them to make all the leaves and all the trunk and all that stuff. The NPP is the rate at which the energy is stored in the ecosystem. So if you have a big giant forest, it's going to have a huge standing crop, but it might not have a lot of energy being stored in the ecosystem because trees grow so slowly. So we have to know the difference between standing crop and NPP. Let me go back. If you notice, these are different pictures of different parts of a plant, and you see the red is where you have most of the plant biomass, and this is by different particular categories. The big thing you need to remember about efficiency is that if you have 10,000 whatever units, energy units here, this is in joules, then each level you go up, you only get 10% of that energy in the next level. So if I have 10,000 joules in plant energy, I'm only going to get 1,000 joules going to the primary consumers, and then only 100 joules, so it's 10% each time. So you can also look at it in numbers. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to stop for there because I'm starting to cough. And I'll talk about the rest of chapter 3 pretty soon.